class of 2024. Please be seated, although I do want to have a special welcome for the people first who are not in caps and gowns, to the friends and family from around the world, the 1,800 people who have come to travel to celebrate their graduates on this momentous day. I know how much this day means to all of you. Many of the students here are first in their family to receive a professional degree. Every student here has met the challenges of law school and life. And today would not have been possible for our graduates without your support, your love, your strength, and your willingness to put up with the most argumentative people on the planet. So please, graduates, thank your families for being here today. I also want to thank the faculty who taught you and mentored you and came to bid you goodbye, as well as our incredibly hardworking staff who spent months working to make your commencement day special. And I would be remiss not to mention that after 34 years of service, this is Associate Dean Mike Thompson's last commitment. So please join me in thanking all of them. And for all of you who have almost graduated, as soon as the corporation votes your degrees, after countless nights spent studying, thousands of words written, an ocean of coffee, you have completed an incredibly rigorous degree program. This commencement honors your tremendous efforts that have gotten you to this point, your ambition, your humility, your pursuit of excellence, and your bottomless tank of grit. I hope that you relish this moment and feel our immense pride in you. Now, this year marks our 200th anniversary, and when we talk about Yale Law School, it's hard not to think about the place where the traces of your memories are etched into the walls themselves, where the soaring ceilings and stained glass and courtyards are now filled with spring blossoms and happy graduates. But the soul of this place, what really makes this law school special, is something else. It is community. It is all of you. And you join this community as we emerge from a pandemic, during which we are forced to put some of our most treasured traditions on ice. And our practices of rubbing shoulders and breaking bread together fell in deep hibernation. And when the ice began to thaw, and we could finally go back to the real normal, not the new normal, you reminded us exactly what is magic about this place. Over the last 3 years, I've watched you tend this wildly eclectic garden of a community. You've revived traditions that connected us, from lunch talks in 120 to running conferences that hadn't been convened in years, to late-night debates about the silly and the sublime. You gave your energy to the club and affinity groups that make this place sing, and brought the retreats and outings that serve lifelong connections here. You reincarnated in the most charming version Law Review, and kindly let me know that I am gherkin enough. By returning to old traditions and creating new ones, you assured the deep magic of this school will continue for the students who follow you. Now, the last few years have not been an easy time for anyone. Now more than ever, this profession needs people of compassion and decency, leaders who build consensus as we try to solve the most painful problems of our time. The world is calling out for people like you. I hope you answer that call as best you can. Take the knowledge you have gained here and leaven it with wisdom. Take the skills you have mastered here and temper them with humility. Above all, embody the integrity and decency that are the hallmark of great scholars, great lawyers, and great human beings. And again, I just want to say congratulations to all of you. We're so proud of everything that you've done. We have two wonderful speakers for you today, both of whom embody the best qualities of this profession. So I'm first pleased to introduce this year's faculty speaker. For every commencement, we follow a tradition of asking the graduating class to select their faculty keynote. I like to think this choice says something about both the class and the speaker. For a group of students so connected to cultivating a rich sense of community, it is no wonder they landed on Professor Doug NeJaime. Doug is the Urowsky Professor of Law. He teaches in the area of family law, legal ethics, law and sexuality, and constitutional law. Before joining us here, he was a professor at UCLA, where as its faculty director, he transformed the Williams Institute into a research engine for sexual orientation and gender identity law and policy. He served in the faculties of UC Irvine and Loyola Law School, and he was a visiting professor at Harvard. Unsurprisingly, he was beloved by the students and the faculty at each of those institutions. Doug is not a traditional family law scholar. He's taken a discipline whose roots are in state courts and local legislatures and placed it in conversation with our nation's most authoritative source of law, the Constitution. Doug's novel understanding of family law has completely reframed our approach to the subject. As an advocate, Doug has helped extend dignity and humanity to the familiar relationships previously overlooked by the law. His leadership was instrumental in passing the Connecticut Parentage Act, legislation that establishes legal parentage for children regardless of the circumstances of their birth or the marital status, gender, or sexual orientation of their parents. Along the way, Doug engaged stakeholders across the political spectrum and created unique opportunities for his own students to be involved in the process. Beyond his status as a vanguard in his field, Doug's work reveals his commitment to protecting our nation's most vulnerable communities and showing the next generation of lawyers how to do the same. But Doug is more than a family law scholar. He's an expert on nurturing students and mentoring scholars. To put it simply, he's taught us how to treat each other like family. Anyone who has taken a course with Doug has witnessed the wonder of his classroom, how he can transform a lecture hall into a living room. He cultivates the kind of warmth and trust that empowers students to engage with challenging issues. Outside the classroom, he opens as many doors as he can, and he even shows students ones that they didn't know existed. During his inaugural lecture a few years ago, he talked about the importance of having a stake in one's community and doing the work necessary for the community to thrive, a lesson he learned from his parents. We have been so lucky that he has modeled this value at YLS, as his tender thoughtfulness is another ingredient to the magic of this place. And with that, I am delighted to welcome to the stage Professor Doug NeJaime.
Thank you for those incredibly generous words. I wish my husband were here to hear me described as having tender thoughtfulness, which he would probably disagree with. So congratulations to the graduates, and congratulations to the families and friends who supported the graduates, and thank you to the graduates for asking me to speak to you today. So I come to you at a moment of deep struggle in my own life. My family is facing health issues that are challenging me as a partner and as a parent. I could wilt, give up, lash out, but that won't make things better. And so I have to struggle through it, struggle as a partner, and struggle as a parent. And struggle is necessary in our private lives, but it is also necessary in our public lives. You are inheriting a world that is scary. Confidence in our foundational institutions is shaken. Our democratic commitments are under attack. Too many people are suffering. Hopes for a better world are dashed by our inability to agree on even basic norms. And you may feel like wilting or giving up or lashing out, and I understand that. You're being told amidst all of this to be civil and to engage in respectful disagreement. And I want to urge something else to you today. I want you to struggle, to find possibilities for action, to seize openings for change. Struggle of a particular kind has over time produced real change, even if partial and incomplete. My own work is animated not only by a deep interest, but also a deep faith in struggle. Struggle over the meaning of law, of family, of equality. Over the past several years, I've worked with many Yale Law students, including many of you, on issues of parental recognition, or what we call parentage. Together, we have struggled so that LGBTQ parents and their children are protected, so that non-biological parent-child relationships in a wide range of families are legally secure, so that people who function as parents of children can be treated as parents by law. Together, we drafted and passed the Connecticut Parentage Act, which comprehensively overhauled the state's outdated and discriminatory parentage laws. Together, we collected and coded hundreds of cases, and I mean you collected and coded hundreds of cases from around the country to learn more about doctrines that protect parent-child bonds in families facing circumstances related to poverty. We injected our findings into struggles for parentage reform in other states. Together, we worked on amicus briefs in parentage cases across the country so that judges would understand the stakes when determining whether a non-biological parent-child relationship should be protected by law. Together, we struggled to change common understandings among ordinary people, among scholars, among judges and legislators of what counts as a parent-child relationship worthy of respect and recognition. So what do these struggles over the family teach us? None of you, left, right, or center, whatever your values and principles, can look at today's world and see in it the world you would create. How does one bring about more of the world one wants? Just as it doesn't happen simply through civil discourse and respectful disagreement, it also doesn't happen simply through critique or defiance. It happens through struggle. Struggle that seeks not simply to gain power and use it to coerce, but instead to move people. You must seek to persuade others, your allies, your adversaries, and everyone in between. Don't take for granted that those who experience the wrongs you observe understand the source of the wrong and its remedy. Same-sex couples who must adopt their own children to have legal security may see this as unjust, but may not know there are changes in law that can alter this reality. You must raise consciousness so that those affected understand that their experience is shared and that something can be done about it. But don't speak only to those who already agree with you. Speak also to those who do not share your commitments. Understand how your adversaries reason, learn from their arguments, respond in registers that are intelligible to them. I still remember preparing with students for a meeting with the ranking Republican member of the committee considering our parentage legislation. And we found common ground, emphasizing protecting developed parent-child bonds over vindicating queer families. And we found we ultimately had a new co-sponsor of the bill. This isn't respectful disagreement. This is about persuasion and grounds of argument. Work with people you have to work with to get things done. At times, you may need to compromise or subordinate some of your own ideals to convince others to produce a world you think is a better world. In the hyper-partisan times in which we live, it's easy to think, and you are often told, that people are unmovable. They believe what they believe. To be sure, about the things I feel most strongly, I have not changed my mind much. See my sense of terror when the dean invited me last year to speak on the A Time I Changed My Mind panel. But I have strong beliefs about only so many things. Many people haven't thought about some of the things you care most about. We found that even some judges in family court in Connecticut hadn't really thought about the fact that our laws treated non-biological parents in same-sex couples as legal strangers to their children. These parents couldn't even get inside the courtroom, so out of sight, out of mind. Get people to think about something that they haven't fully thought about. By inviting people in, you may lead some who do not share your worldview to see an issue in the way you see it. Often you will fail to move others. Part of what struggle entails is living in community with people you don't and won't agree with. Today, both the left and right too often treat others as worthy of being members of the community based on whether they have the same views. And that can't be how we live together. Indeed, you might learn something by speaking with people who do not share your commitments. Remember, people have well-formed views about only so many things, and that includes you. Don't be easily offended. As I tell my 5-year-old son, everything is not such a big deal. You are more effective when you are resilient than when you are injured. There is something to be said for repressing emotions. Believe me, just get through it. Sometimes it's worth swallowing your rage. At times, of course, struggle entails, in fact, it requires rage and protest, disruption and defiance. Riva Siegel and I have written about social mobilizations in the 20th century by advocates for LGBTQ equality and reproductive justice. In the face of stigma, in the face of silence and exclusion, in the face of decision makers who refuse to listen, we observe the ways in which, for those who were silenced and shut out of politics, protest and defiance were required to mobilize and to gain attention. Our parentage work in Connecticut focused on legislative change. We didn't view courts as a primary vehicle for change. But courts still play an important role, not simply as decision makers, but also as arenas for struggle. As Riva and I showed, courts have supplied a venue in which those who are marginalized make their voices heard. You will lose, especially when you're struggling just to make your claims audible. But do not treat losses as only losses. They are opportunities. In my own earlier academic work, I was interested in how advocates for change on both the left and the right adopt a strategy of what I termed winning through losing. It doesn't mean that they brought cases expecting to lose or they deliberately lost. Instead, it means that they were prepared to pivot, that when they lost, they used it as an opportunity to mobilize constituents, to make change in other venues, to convince others about the urgency of their cause and the need for action. If we look across successful social movements on both left and right over the course of the last century, we see struggle in the face of loss, the turning of loss into new opportunities, ways of speaking, and strategies for change. We are in the midst of a struggle of this kind in the wake of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe and Dobbs. Advocates for reproductive freedom experienced shock and grief in the face of the decision, but it led them to shift arenas, from federal courts to state legislatures and ballot initiatives, to find new grounds of argument, no longer constrained by the doctrinal framework within which the court had reasoned for decades, and to appeal to new audiences. The judicial decision transformed the terms of debate, forcing many who support abortion restrictions to face new questions about the ethics of care and the brutality of forced pregnancy. The idea of winning through losing resonates with the understanding of law as dynamic and perpetually contested. This means you must be in the struggle, not outside of it. Do not treat existing laws and judicial decisions as having a settled meaning to which you object. This approach directs you primarily into critique mode rather than change mode. Your adversaries will not treat meanings as so fixed. Instead, they will make meanings while you critique. By focusing so much on struggling, I'm not saying you shouldn't be civil or respectful, but civility can sound like detachment, and I'm urging engagement. You should connect to people and be kind to people. We're all humans, we all have struggles. There are many reasons to be kind. It could help you as you struggle to change the world. I have found people who are kind to me to be much more persuasive than people who are mean to me. In our parentage work, kindness went a long way in getting people on board. Struggle has a goal in view. You are struggling for something, the world you imagine, shaped by your values and principles. In my own life and work, I am struggling for a world that nurtures and protects bonds, family bonds and bonds of community. Struggle in service of something, for sure, is important, but it's also meaningful in the moment, as a practice that forges community. You seek to move someone by facing them, by living together as equals, not through exercising power and domination. In struggle, you form bonds. And this brings me back to where I started. Struggle in my own life, for my partner, for our child, for our family. Struggle is hard, but it's where you develop new forms of community, strengthen relationships, and connect to others. To produce the world you want to live in, you must struggle. Congratulations again. I look forward to watching you all struggle for years to come.
Thank you, Doug. I'm now thrilled to introduce Damian Williams as this year's guest speaker. Damian is a U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, the first Black attorney ever to be appointed to that esteemed role. In 2021, President Joe Biden nominated Damian to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. And upon assuming that position, Damian promised that he would be relentless in ridding financial markets of malfeasance. And he has made good on that promise. Damian has pursued a dizzying number of cases of white-collar crime, prosecuting massive fraud on Wall Street and in the cryptocurrency markets. He notably ensured that the leaders of FTX were held accountable for misappropriating customers' funds, bringing charges only a month after the company's collapse. Damian has also become known for fearlessly confronting political corruption, taking public officials to task for betraying the public trust. The press has celebrated him for his moral clarity, and he has made the law school proud. Before Damian took on this path-breaking role, though, a long time ago, he was one of you. He was a member of the class of 2007 and one of our community's most beloved members. Damian wasn't the kind of student to constantly raise his hand and talk, but he had a quiet charisma and a thoughtfulness that made his classmates listen. When he was here, he was active in efforts to help New Orleans recover after Hurricane Katrina. He was a beloved member of BALSA and served as Ombuddsman for the Yale Law Journal. After graduating from the law school, he clerked for then Judge Merrick Garland and Justice John Paul Stevens. Later, he joined the Southern District and Assistant U.S. Attorney prosecuting cases of insider trading and bribery. During that time, he developed a reputation for being a wildly successful yet understated trial lawyer with an astonishing memory, the kind of lawyer who is deeply respected by the colleagues he worked with and the counsel he opposed. Now, when you read over Damian's resume, you get the sense that he was destined for a position at one of the most venerated offices in the country. But Damian has been vocal in acknowledging that his path was not linear. Shortly before he started law school, Damian's sister passed away. And while Damian's time in law school was marked by incredible achievement, it was also a time of hardship for him and his family. The magic of Damian's leadership is his willingness to wear both his pride and his grief on his sleeve. His success inspires people, and his vulnerability makes them feel less alone. Please join me in welcoming Damian Williams.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's so good to be back at Yale. I love this school deeply, even though my path through it wasn't exactly easy, as Heather just mentioned. So I started law school in the darkest moment of my life. Just 3 weeks after my sister, who was just 25 years old, suddenly passed away. I showed up here a broken soul. My heart was shattered into a million pieces. I have searched and searched, and I am now convinced that the English language lacks a word that captures the type of raw pain we feel after tragic loss, especially when a young person dies. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and I'm sorry if you do. My relationship with the law school will forever be defined by my struggle with that pain, my struggle to heal. I was not alone in that struggle. There were so many people who helped me, friends, family, faculty. And yet I spent most of law school convinced that I would always be broken. What I didn't know then, but I know now, is that the heart never completely heals, but that doesn't mean it can't be full again. And I certainly couldn't have imagined a day like today. The 1L who could barely get out of bed because of the pain on most days would have taken in this scene and dismissed it as some sort of fever dream. And yet here I stand with a full heart, astonished that I get to speak to you and say these words. Dean Gerken, distinguished members of the faculty and administrators, thank you, truly, thank you for welcoming me back. To the families of the graduates, I can only imagine the flood of emotions you are feeling right now. Congratulations on a job well done. To my family and to my children who are here today, you are why Daddy's heart is full again. And finally, to the class of 2024, the newest graduates of Yale Law School, congratulations on this incredible achievement. You are an amazing bunch, and it's a true honor to share this day with you, and to do so the year that Yale Law School celebrates its 200-year anniversary. For 200 years, graduates have gathered right here in this town on the banks of the Long Island Sound to mark occasions like this. The induction of a small group of students into the legal profession. A small group of students that, by tradition, is chosen to study here because of their excellence and their creativity, their untamed minds and rebellious spirits. Dreamers and change makers, filled with potential and ready to unleash it into the world. For 200 years, graduation and the ritual of graduation has kept history's beat. There is something steady and comforting about it, the consistency of it all, the black robes and the slightly goofy hats. The ritual serves an important purpose. It unites each class with generations past and future. But the ritual does something else. It obscures a deeper and fundamental truth, one that we are not quick to acknowledge. It's the reality that not all graduating classes are equal, and that's because not all times are equal. Some generations leave this place in times of relative peace, calm, and stability. And then there are other generations, the rare ones, and I believe the consequential ones, that graduate in times of great uncertainty and tumult and tension, when it seems like our destiny stands on knife's edge. We gather at one of those times. The currents of change are fiercer today than they have been in my entire lifetime. The velocity is different. The volume is different. The rancor is different. The anxiety is different. The stakes are different. I mean, just think about it. We now question the sturdiness of public health, of precedent, of capital, of climate, of alliances, of democracy, of tolerance, of trust, and of truth. And because of our deep divisions, we, the people, look more like us versus them. We demonize difference and are too cruel to one another. And no matter your politics, we all have to admit that this is not sustainable. Something's got to give. Because whatever healthy looks like, this ain't it. Now, all of this would have been unthinkable, unspeakable, when I sat where you sit today at my law school graduation. We were so confident that there were certain principles that were universal and true, built on bedrock and destined to last. But this is the world that you inherit, the world you've been given. The urgent question is what your generation, this rare and consequential generation, is going to do with this world. Because at the end of the day, fundamental change will not come in 1 year or in one election cycle. It's the work of a generation. It'll be what you're remembered for. It'll be your legacy. And it's what I want to speak with you about today. Now look, just to set expectations, there are no easy answers here, and ultimately the question can only be answered by you. But I do have a suggestion, one that I think makes sense, and I want to offer it up for your consideration if you let me. So, when I look around the world you've been given, the world you inherit, I think we have more than enough combatants. People who are hopelessly dug into their trenches, fighting to the bitter end. What we don't have is enough healers, enough peacemakers, people of humanity and empathy and grace who are prepared to do the hard work, the necessary work, the careful work of stitching us back together before our wounds become scars and we no longer recognize ourselves. Only healers can do that. Only peacemakers can do that. Combatants can't, because it's impossible to bind a wound with a clenched fist. I believe your generation has the capacity to heal us, to bring us closer together at a time when we are being constantly pulled apart, to replace the impulse of cruelty and condemnation with the discipline of kindness and curiosity. But I want to be clear. This is not a call for you to trim your sails or for you to abandon your deeply held beliefs. Far from it. Your passion is tied to your potential and will always be needed. And by calling for healing, I'm not absolving the people who have peddled and profited from the toxicity and division that we are struggling with. History will be their judge. But who they are should not dictate who you become. And I believe your generation can be something very different. A bridge over troubled water. One that lifts up our shared humanity above all else, above narrow self-interest, above clan and camp, so that we can see ourselves in each other once more, and so that we can give grace as freely as we hope to receive it. Now, before you dismiss this as naive or Pollyannish, let me ask you this. How else does all this end? And not only end, but end well. By doubling down and forcing people to see things your way? By speaking louder or flexing harder? I don't think that works. Because the truth is, if the power of intellect or logic or wealth, or if military power or political power were enough to settle all scores, then we wouldn't be where we are today. If simply commanding 5 votes on a court of 9, or 270 electoral votes on a map were enough to settle all scores, then we wouldn't be where we are today. That kind of power will never be enough. As graduates of this institution, you will wield tremendous power over the course of your careers in government, in private industry, in academia. And yet that wealth of power will not be enough to compensate for our collective poverty of humanity, empathy, and mutual grace. Remember, history teaches this. Humanity, empathy, and grace have been the foundation stone of almost every prophetic vision of a brighter future. From Dr. King's call in the depths of Jim Crow for a beloved community that included all of humankind, oppressor and the oppressed, reconciled into one and bound together with love. To President Lincoln's call for a just and lasting peace that would heal a young and broken nation still at war with itself. To Scripture's ancient words that blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. My point is this. We may not have seen times like this with our own eyes, but history has. And history teaches that in times of tension, in times of conflict, in times of deep division, it takes people of good faith, people with a stubborn commitment to humanity, empathy, and grace to bring about peace and healing. Now let's talk action, and whether it's possible to incorporate what I am suggesting into the day-to-day work of lawyering, a profession that you joined today, and one that, as part of the gig, sometimes involves taking sides and duking it out. I believe it is possible, because I believe these times demand a broader conception of our obligations as lawyers, to consider what is best for community and country, not just client and cause. It's a conception of lawyering that has fallen out of favor, but was once embodied most famously by a man known as the people's lawyer, the original public interest lawyer, Louis Brandeis. Brandeis was firm in his belief that lawyers should never lose sight of what is best for society. He chose his clients and styled the positions he took in court with that as his guiding light. He steered his clients toward solutions that accomplished the greatest good. And at times, he was willing to withdraw from representations when he thought his clients were wrong and they refused to make it right. Now, this was not without controversy. When Brandeis was nominated to the Supreme Court, he was pressed at his confirmation hearing to explain whether his approach to lawyering was ethical. Who exactly did he represent? The senators wanted to know. Brandeis made clear that he didn't view himself as counsel for this client or that, but instead he viewed himself as counsel to the situation. I believe Brandeis was onto something. Because the truth is, not every client who can afford your wage is worthy of your work. Don't get me wrong, everyone is entitled to counsel. Good counsel, loyal counsel, zealous counsel. but that doesn't mean everyone deserves your counsel. Today, you graduate as leaders, not hired guns. Your labor is precious, and the fact that you, as graduates of this institution, associate yourself with certain clients and certain causes will carry extra weight and the presumption of legitimacy. So I urge you, be choosy, be big-hearted, be public-minded, be mindful of our situation. That is the essence of being counsel to the situation. Now, this will require you to ask yourself hard questions as you practice law. Questions like, what's the right thing to do? Does this serve the greater good? Does this sit well with my soul? These are not legal questions, they are moral questions. Questions that have nothing to do with the common law and everything to do with common decency. And how you answer those questions will help determine whether, in ways big and small, on a day-to-day basis, your work can help steer us to a better place. Now, some of you may question whether it's fair to ask your generation to help heal wounds that you did not create. I get that. It's a lot to ask. But at the same time, our obligations run to each other, across difference and across generations, to people you know and people you never will. And look, at some point, you must have asked yourself why you, of all the people in the world, have been blessed with the extraordinary gifts you've been given, if not to help change this world, and to do so at a time when it mattered most. And the truth is, you've now been trained for this. At its best, this school teaches that principled dissent should never be confused with hopeless division. It teaches that transformational change requires both the courage to speak and the humility to listen. It teaches that brilliance without compassion is pointless, like a map with no true north. It teaches that we must take care of one another, because that's what healthy communities do. That's the magic of this place. It's now up to you to carry that magic forward and apply it to a world that so desperately needs it. Now, I want you to do one last thing. With your mind's eye, I want you to imagine a world 200 years from now, when a future generation gathers right here in this town on the banks of the Long Island Sound for their graduation. What do you want that generation to say about your generation? About how you lived and how you led and how you practiced the law? Let them say that when faced with a world filled with bitter division, when the currents of change were fierce and unrelenting and threatened to sweep away things that we cared about most, that your generation made the choice to be that bridge over troubled water, that your generation was the first to see the dawn through the darkness, and that your generation helped us heal. But know this, whether they say those things is ultimately up to you, because that history has not been written. Those pages are blank. And starting today, you hold the pen. Congratulations to the consequential class of 2024. I wish you the best of luck.
Friends, family, and faculty, I am delighted to present to you the candidates for advanced degree in law, and please welcome to the stage Assistant Dean Gordon Silverstein to read their names.
Delfina Begueri. Violetta Canavez. Tasneem Ravindra Deo. Jiangfeng Li. For the degree of Master of Laws, Shubhangi Agarwala. Ifoma Ajunwa. Maria Alexandrova. Carol Mark Anne-Marie Brackenhers. Santiago Cabathal. Kion Chong. Meda Damoji Purapu. Simon Divro. Helena Falk. Jessica Grace Fenton. Eldar Gilron. Hernan Gomez Yuri. Shira Halbertal. Cecilia Kalach-Cholinsky. Sonia Knowlton. Richard Lee Kolabai. Alexis Lujan. Clara Martin Sota. Yasmin Helena Olsen. Inja Beaspan. Nicholas Rauning. Avital Shlomit Rosenfeld. Angel Enrique Sanchez. Sato Minato. Mateus Utz. Mark Weisner. Benjamin Zolf. And for the degree of Master of Studies in Law, Catherine Marie Davis. And Sean Michael Labrie. Congratulations.
And now I am delighted to present the candidates for Juris Doctorate and Dean Jennifer Cerny to present the names.
Joshua Allen Aiken. Doreen Akbari. Jackson Axelrod. Arifa Ali. Neda Al-Jassar. Brandy Allen. Liza Anderson. Natalie Rose Andros. Marlene Oreas. Nargis Aslami. Cameron Averill. Stuart Webster Babcock. Lucia Baca. Sarah Baer. Rachel Courtney Rhoda Baker. Kai-Chi Bao. Nelson Landers Barrett. Arshan Barzani. Connor John Bell. Gustavo Barrett-Spezia. Abigail Bessler. George Elledge Bokinski. Aletta Brady. Kate Brennan. Gregory Bricker. Alex William Broad. Matt Brundage. Matthew Buck. Ella Clar Bonnell. Catherine Ann Bussey. Edmund Tobias Calvert-Lee. Ronan Liam Campbell. Michaela Cardillo. Nathan Shale. Bowen Chang. Arusa Yasin Chima. Kevin Chow Chang. Lyle Chernoff. Jade Elizabeth Chowning. Kenneth Paul Coleman. Jenna Margaret Cook. Leighton Fernando Cook. Bronwyn Heather Craw. Rachel Mary Crowell. Hadea Kalela Kanira Cummings. Sydney Alexis Daniels. Andrea Alejandra de Leon Cruz. Henoch Dory. Adriana Duggan. Aisha Mahmood Durrani. Christopher John Duroso. Hannah Stein Eichner. Alexander Lee Emmons. Darnell Epps. Jonathan Epps. Dominique Jeanette Ernie. Ava Navarro Farukbadi. Samuel Gideon Feena. Avi Feinsod. Jonathan Grant Feld. Grace Ann Fenwick. Edward Friedman. Nicholas Alexander Fernandez. Diego Fernandez Pajes. Elena Fejera. Leah Marie Fessler. Gregory Adam Flaherty. Catherine Gassio. Gabriel Gassman. Melissa Adriana Gayton. Sonia Gura. Jonathan Gibson. Amanda Adelia Gomez Feliz. Jacob A. Gonzalez. Oh, Andrew Granado. Valentina Guerrero. Gabriela Elena Guillermish Weldon. Allah Hashim. Ali Ubdetayeb Hakim. Laura Ann Hallis. Rebecca Harris. Nathaniel Shaw Hay. Matt Hernandez. Nathan Hernandez. James Tucker Higgins. Blake Jameson Hurst. Joshua Max Hockman. Suchin Holdheim. Adam Horn. Jenna Hoskison. Elaine Howe. Jim Huang. Jacob Koppelman Hutt. Dominique James. Charles Yuanfeng Zhuang. Juan Jose Hernandez Lizarde. Alexander Rulin Johnson. Kurt Kandula. Carissa Kang. Melissa Kay. Jordan Avram Kayron. Jonah Kelly. Jaewon Chris Kim. Zoe Kreitenberg. Emma Louise Crom. William Russell Kruger. Declan Riley Kunkel. Rebecca May Warren Landau. Lydia Elaine Larimore. Carl Lasker. Charlotte Mary Lawrence. Emma Finland LeBlanc. Wanwang Lee. Caroline Lefevre. Raquel Adriana Leslie. Ryan Jacob Lessing. Jacob Brooks Levin. Tiffany Lee. Evan Lissman. Abyssinia Makta Lisanu. Brian Liu. Ishan Liu. Noah Christopher Lopez. Scott Patrick Lauder. Benjamin Liu. Arjun Pranav Malik. Pragya Malik. Helen Karstarfin Malley. Sage Arik Mason. Nicholas Bennett Maurer. Isaac Barnes May. K.N. McCleary. William Blair McGee. Sarah Mendez. Dominica Alejandra Merino. Marcella Mihalik. Renee Marie Mahale. Ian Miller. Maggie M. Mills. Gabrielle Monaco. Demi Alexis Moore. Melissa Jane Muller. Brandon Nye. Declan Crawford O'Brien. Isaiah Ray Ogren. Olu Osaige. Melissa Olgun. Solveig Olsen Strom. Davis Reynolds Parker. Taryn Patel Wilson. Julia Peoples. Jonathan Perez Raisin. James Eric Pilch. Shreya Pinamaneni. Thomas Maynard Poston. Nia Victoria Prince. Kayan Chi. Faline Shin. Deborah Naomi Rabinovich. Shamala Lakshmi Ramakrishna. Krithi Kaliwani Ramakrishnan. Kyle Raniere. Edward Hunt Ray IV. Natasha Marie Reifenberg. Layla Mia Robbins. Laura Catherine Roberts. Henry George Robinson. Ben Rogers. Benjamin Roebuck. Rachel J. Ruderman. Jack William Sadler. Mason Piers Minot Sands. Eliza Seidenfeld. Karina Manish Shah. Nagin Shahar. Asha Sheikh. Neha Sharma. Dina Mohammed Shada. Wilberto Sykard. Arib Siddiqui. Aaron Skeeter Skigal. Alphonse Simon. Dhanvir Singh. Nakota Stevenson. Samuel Sawyer Stolenwork III. Camila Suarez. Victoria Suarez Palomo. Grace Sullivan. Michael Sullivan. Sonora Tafa. Timothy Tai. Alyssa Marie Tambora. Zakir Tamiz. Aaron Z. Tarikian. Quinan Tran. Sarah Sagai. Nina Vaswani. William Vester. Theodore Nelson Waldron. Jamie Alexander Walker. Jandy Wallace. Alice Yiqian Wang. Stephen Alden Esteves Westman. Brianna Shu Yong. Sohyun Kate Yoon. Arturo Zapata. Isabel Zaslavsky. Saifuddin Zahiri. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2024, please. So if you all, please be seated for one more minute. I want to first invite all of you, we have refreshments and hugs and photographs over at Baker Hall, and it's a chance especially for the faculty to say goodbye to some of their most beloved students. But I think we should end this ceremony the way we began, which is to thank the faculty, the staff, the families and friends who made all of this possible for you. So class of 24, please rise and thank them. All right, Mike. Thank you very much, and we'll see you over at Baker Hall.